Welcome. Welcome to Monk's Moon Temple. Let's start with something you might not expect. A confession. From me, to you. We live in a world that worships the answer. The quick fix. The 10-step plan. The definitive solution that arrives with a bang, a flash, a clear voice telling you exactly what to do. We've been trained to believe that clarity is loud. That wisdom announces itself. We sit in the audience of our own lives, waiting for the headline speaker to take the stage and spell it all out. But what if the most important voice you need to hear never says a word? What if the deepest answers don't come from adding more noise, more advice, more podcasts, more frantic thinking, but from understanding a different kind of signal entirely? A signal not of sound, but of silence. Not of filling, but of emptying. Not of seeking, but of allowing. We have mistaken silence for a punishment. A blank space. A lonely pause. We see it as the enemy of productivity, the cousin of boredom, the void we rush to fill with another podcast, another scroll, another task. We fear that if we stop, the wheels will come off. If we get quiet, we'll be alone with everything we're running from. But I want to invite you to see it differently. What if that silence you've been avoiding is not a barren room, but a cathedral? Not an emptiness, but the most profound fullness you will ever know. Its architecture isn't made of stone and glass, but of the space between your thoughts. Its stained glass windows are the patterns of your own awareness, filtering the pure light of reality. And its altar holds not a relic, but a living, breathing truth about who you are. This isn't about becoming a mystic on a mountaintop. This is a practical exploration of your own inner operating system. We're going to learn why the quietest place you can go is also the most informative. Why the answer to, "What should I do?" often comes when you finally stop asking. And how, in a world screaming for your attention, your most radical act of power might be to listen to nothing at all. This is a journey into the silent cathedral within you. It's always been there. You just forgot where the door was. Ready to step inside? Let's begin. Our modern mind is not a calm stream. It is a factory. A 24/7 production line of thought. Worry rolls off one conveyor belt. Planning clatters down another. Replayed conversations from 3 years ago are sorted and packaged alongside anxieties about events that may never happen. The foreman, that critical, nagging voice, shouts orders over the din. The lights are always on. The machines never stop. And you? You are not the owner of this factory. You've been mistaken for one of the machines. You believe the product. The endless stream of thoughts is who you are. But there is a space above the factory floor. A silent, glass-walled observation room. From here, you can see the whole operation. The chaos, the noise, the relentless activity. But you are not in it. You are observing it. The factory is your mind. The observation room is your awareness. And most of us spend our entire lives on the floor, covered in grease, deafened by the noise, never realizing there's a door leading upstairs to the quiet. The first step into the silent cathedral is realizing you are the weaver, not the thread. You are the awareness that holds the thought, not the thought itself. Let me show you what I mean with a story. Several years ago, I found myself in the ancient city of Bagan, in Burma. Thousands of brick stupas and temples rise from the dusty plain, silent sentinels under a vast, hot sky. One afternoon, seeking shade, I stepped into the cool, dark interior of a small, lesser-visited temple. It was empty. The only light came from a single shaft falling through a high window, illuminating a wall of crumbling frescoes. The silence was absolute. Not just an absence of sound, but a thick, palpable presence. I sat down, my back against the sun-warmed stone. Almost immediately, my factory mind kicked in. You should be out seeing more temples. Did you lock the guesthouse door? What will you do for dinner? The thoughts were like tourists, bustling and loud in the sacred space. I felt the old frustration start to rise, the feeling that I couldn't even sit in silence properly. But then, my eyes adjusted to the dim light. I began to see the frescoes clearly. They depicted the life of the Buddha, but time and moisture had softened the images. The edges were blurred. Details had melted into the wall itself. I couldn't make out a definitive story anymore. There was just color, form, and shadow. And a strange thing happened. As I stopped trying to interpret the images, to figure out which scene was which, I started to simply see them. The deep ochre of a robe. The gentle curve of a hand. The silent, faded smile on a figure's face. In that act of pure seeing, without the mental commentary, my own internal noise began to recede. It didn't vanish. It was still there, the tourist thoughts milling about. But I was no longer arguing with them, or following them out the door. I was just aware of them. As aware as I was of the color on the wall. In that quiet temple, I had a simple, wordless realization: the frescoes were not in the wall. They were the wall. And my thoughts were not in me. They were patterns passing through the substance of my awareness, just like the light and moisture had created patterns on the plaster. I was the wall. Silent, enduring, holding the temporary art of experience. For a few moments, the factory floor was quiet. I was in the observation room. And the view was one of profound peace. That is the first key to the cathedral. You are the silent container, not the noisy thing contained. If this idea, that peace might be found not by managing the chaos, but by changing your relationship to it, resonates with you, then you're already stepping onto the path. If you'd like company on this journey, consider joining our community here at Monk's Moon Temple. Hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it means you won't miss our weekly explorations into living with more clarity and less noise. You're not just subscribing to a channel, you're joining a quiet space for reflection. Now, let's continue. The Bagan story points to a universal human experience, but let's ground it in a different culture, one that has built an entire philosophy around this observation room. In the misty highlands of Tibet, there is a teaching metaphor known as Sem Nai Napa. Often translated as mind resting in its own natural state. Imagine a crystal glass, perfectly clear, filled with muddy water. You shake it violently. The water is a turbulent, opaque storm. Is the glass itself dirty? No. Is the water inherently bad? No. The problem is the agitation. Now, set the glass on a stable table. Stop shaking it. Be patient. Do nothing. What happens? The mud, no longer churned by your forced effort, begins to settle. Particle by particle, it drifts downward. The water above becomes clearer and clearer until it is perfectly transparent. The glass is seen for what it always was, pristine, clear, capable of perfectly transmitting light. The mud now rests in a neat layer at the bottom. It hasn't disappeared. It has simply found its place. Your awareness is the crystal glass. Your thoughts and emotions are the water and the mud. Your constant mental effort, the worrying, the planning, the analyzing, the striving to fix your mind, is the act of shaking the glass. You are the one creating the obscuring storm. The Tibetan practice of shamatha, or calm abiding, is the disciplined art of setting the glass down. It is conscious non-agitation. It's not about stopping thoughts, that's just another form of shaking. It's about withdrawing the energy that keeps the turbulence going. You sit. You breathe. You notice the shaking impulse, and you choose, again and again, not to follow it. You simply let the glass be still. And in that enforced stillness, a natural law takes over. The mind begins to settle on its own. What rises to the top is not a new, better thought. It is clarity itself. The ability to simply see things as they are. The answer you've been seeking was never in fighting the mud, it was in the courageous act of ceasing to stir it. This is why silence is not passive. It is the most active form of non-interference. It is creating the conditions for truth to reveal itself, rather than imposing your truth upon the situation. Let me give you a modern, urban example. A friend of mine, Leo, was a conflict mediator in New York City. His job was to sit with landlords and tenants, business partners in divorce, neighbors at war, and help them find a path forward. The rooms were often electric with anger, grief, and accusation. Words were weapons. He told me his greatest tool was not a clever argument or a persuasive technique. It was silence. A specific kind of silence. He called it, holding the static. When one person would finish a furious, wounded tirade, the natural human impulse, for the other person and even for the mediator, is to jump in. To defend, explain, correct, or mediate immediately. The space fills with reactive noise, layering conflict upon conflict. Leo trained himself, in that heated moment, to do nothing. To simply let the last angry word hang in the air. To hold the static-filled silence for 3 full seconds. He wouldn't look at his notes. He wouldn't formulate his response. He would just breathe, and be present with the emotional residue crackling in the room. In that silence, he said, 2 things always happened. First, the speaker, having emptied their cache of blame, would often hear their own words echo back in the quiet, and a flicker of something else. Vulnerability, uncertainty, sadness, would cross their face. The performance would soften. Second, the person who had been attacked, who was coiled to strike back, would find their reactive momentum interrupted. The silence created a speed bump for their rage. Only after holding that charged silence would Leo speak, usually with a simple, neutral observation, "That was a lot to carry." Or, "I hear how important this is." The silence acted as a firebreak. It didn't extinguish the flames, but it stopped them from spreading uncontrollably. It created a gap, and in that gap, something other than more fighting could emerge. Often, it was the first moment of real listening in the entire conflict. Leo wasn't using silence to win. He was using it to allow a new, quieter truth, the truth of shared pain beneath the positions, to have a chance to be heard. His silence was the stable container for their chaos. He was the crystal glass, holding the muddy water without being shattered by it, waiting for the settling to begin. Understanding that we are the awareness, not the thought, is the map. But how do we actually navigate to that place when the factory is at full production? When the glass is being shaken by a hurricane? We need an anchor point. A single, undeniable truth we can tether ourselves to when the mind wants to drift into the past or future. That anchor point is the body. The living, breathing, sensing organism of the right now. Your mind is a time traveler. It can be replaying a childhood memory one second and catastrophizing about a retirement plan the next. But your body is a geological fact of the present. It is always, irrevocably, here. The feeling of your feet on the floor. The weight in your chair. The cool air at the nostrils. The steady, reliable pulse you didn't ask for and can't stop. This is your ground truth. In the Zen traditions of Japan, this is called shikantaza, just sitting. But it's not a passive, just. It's an active, whole-bodied commitment to being present. There's a story of a young monk complaining to his master, "I try to meditate, but my mind is full of thoughts about the market, my mother's health, the temple chores." The master replied, "When you sit, sit. When you think of the market, know you are thinking of the market. That is all." You are adding a story about failure to a simple thought. Just sit with the sitting. The anchor is not the absence of thought. It is the conscious feeling of the body while thinking occurs. You are not trying to stop the waves, you are learning to feel the solidity of the ocean floor beneath them. Let me introduce you to a practice I learned not in a temple, but in a workshop. I spent time with a master Japanese bowyer, a craftsman who makes the traditional yumi, the asymmetrical longbow. The wood is bamboo and hardwood, laminated with fish bladder glue. The process is slow, taking over a year per bow. I watched him for hours as he shaped a stave with a small hand plane. His movements were fluid, unhurried, silent except for the soft shush-shush of the blade. His entire being seemed concentrated in his hands and the line of wood. I finally asked him, "How do you know when it's right? When to stop planing?" He paused, put his tools down, and said through his translator, "The mind does not know. The eyes can be fooled. You must listen with the hands." He picked up the stave, closed his eyes, and ran his fingertips along its length, from grip to tip, again and again. "The wood speaks here," he said, pressing a spot. A tension, a whisper of resistance. My job is not to make it obey my idea of a bow. My job is to listen until the wood tells me it has become the bow it wants to be. The thinking is a distraction. The knowing is in the silence of the touch. For him, the anchor point was the tactile conversation between his hands and the bamboo. All his intellectual knowledge of draw weight and laminations was secondary. The deep work happened in the silent, sensory dialogue. He had to quiet his mind's idea of the bow to hear his body's intelligence of it. We can do the same. When you are lost in a storm of anxiety, you don't have to solve the anxiety. You simply have to relocate. Gate 1, the tactile anchor. Put your palms flat on your desk. Pour 100% of your attention, for just 10 seconds, into the physical sensations, the coolness of the surface, the pressure on your skin, the subtle texture. Your mind will protest. It will try to pull you back into the storm. Gently, without judgment, return to the feeling in your palms. You are not trying to relax. You are performing an act of cognitive relocation. You are moving from the abstract world of worry to the concrete world of sensation. You are finding the ocean floor. Another anchor lives in the most basic rhythm of all, the breath. In the Theravada Buddhist forests of Sri Lanka, monks practice anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. It is the foundational practice. Not because the breath is magical, but because it is always available, neutral, and intimately tied to the state of the mind. I remember sitting in a simple meditation hall in the hill country near Kandy. The only instruction from the elderly monk was, know the in-breath. Know the out-breath. When you forget, know you forgot, and come back. For hours, it seemed, that was the entire universe. The rustle of the jungle outside, the smell of old wood and incense, and the simple, humble fact of the breath. There was no goal of bliss, no special state to achieve. Just this, the knowing. And in that relentless simplicity, a profound space opened up. The drama of my life, my travel plans, my relationships, my insecurities, didn't disappear. They just lost their starring roles. They became side characters in a much larger, quieter play. The play of being alive, here, breathing in this moment. The breath was the anchor, and it held me in a present so immediate that past and future became thin, distant stories. Gate 2, the breath anchor. You can do this anywhere. For the next 60 seconds, let your attention rest on the physical sensation of the breath. Don't change it. Don't visualize it. Just feel it. The coolness at the tip of the nose or the back of the throat on the in-breath. The slight warmth on the out-breath. The gentle rise and fall of the chest or belly. Your mind will wander. That's its job. The practice is not in having a blank mind. The practice is in the moment you notice it has wandered, and with kindness, you escort your attention back to the sensation. That act, the noticing and the returning, is the single most important repetition you can do. It is the bicep curl for your awareness muscle. It builds the strength to choose where you place your attention, rather than being a victim of where it drifts. These anchors are training. They build the neural pathways for stability. But the real test comes in motion, in life. How do you bring this anchored silence into the flow of your day? I want to tell you about Anya, a paramedic I met in Toronto. Her world was sirens, trauma, split-second decisions, and adrenalized chaos. Silence seemed like a luxury for another life. She came to a talk I gave, skeptical but desperate. She was burning out, haunted by the things she'd seen, her mind a constant replay of emergency scenes. I suggested something absurdly simple. I called it the red light ritual. Every time her ambulance was stopped at a red light, not at a call, just in transit, her task was this: for the duration of that red light, she was to do nothing but look out the window and find one ordinary, peaceful detail. Not the dramatic billboard, not the arguing couple on the corner. One quiet detail. The way rain beaded on a parked bicycle seat. A single yellow leaf stuck to a gray lamppost. An old man carefully feeding pigeons. That was it. No deep breathing, no closing her eyes. Just a specific, focused redirection of attention to something neutral and present. She told me later it changed her professional life. At first, it felt stupid. But after a few days, those red lights became sanctuaries. 20 seconds of enforced, focused calm in the middle of the storm. I wasn't trying to stop the stress or the memories. I was just giving my brain a different channel to tune into, however briefly. It was like a system reboot. I'd look at that leaf, and for a few seconds, the movie in my head would pause. By the time the light turned green, I'd feel a fraction clearer, a fraction more here. Over time, those accumulated moments of silent attention created a buffer, a layer of peace that the chaos could not completely penetrate. She had found a way to drop anchor in the middle of the hurricane. When you begin to stabilize through these anchors, something remarkable starts to happen. The constant static of your thinking mind begins to fade from the foreground. And in the clearer air, you start to pick up on a different kind of signal. A quieter, deeper, more certain frequency. We call this intuition, or gut knowing, but those words can sound mystical. I prefer to think of it as the signal fire. Imagine you are lost in a vast, dark forest at night. Your conscious, thinking mind is a flashlight. It's great for illuminating the immediate details, the route in your path, the tree directly in front of you. It's logical, focused, and local. But it can't see the whole forest. It can't tell you the way out. The signal fire is a distant glow on the horizon. You can't see what's fueling it. You can't analyze its construction. But its presence gives you a direction. It's a knowing that comes not from analyzing the details under your feet, but from a holistic, felt sense of the landscape. Your thinking mind is the flashlight. Your intuitive mind is the capacity to see the fire. Silence is what allows you to lift your gaze from the tangled roots and look toward the horizon. When the flashlight beam of your frantic thinking is always on, darting everywhere, it drowns out the soft, steady glow of the fire. In the Chan Buddhist traditions of China, there's a concept of Wu Xian, no mind. It doesn't mean being brain dead. It means a mind not cluttered with secondary thought, a mind so perfectly attuned to the present that it reflects reality like a still lake, and action arises spontaneously from that reflection. It's the state of the master calligrapher whose brush moves without hesitation, not because he has thought through each stroke, but because his mind is silent enough for the stroke to emerge from the silence, perfectly aligned with the moment. I witnessed this not with a calligrapher, but with a tea master in a quiet house in Taipei. The ceremony was not the elaborate, performative kind. It was intimate, slow, and conducted in near total silence. He heated the water. He warmed the pots. He measured the leaves. Every movement was economical, graceful, and utterly present. There was no showmanship. It felt less like a performance and more like a conversation between him, the tea, the water, and the clay. When he poured the tea, the stream was a perfect, unbroken amber thread, filling each tiny cup to exactly the same level without a drop spilled. I asked him later how he achieved such precision. He smiled and said, "I do not achieve it. I get out of the way. If I think, now I must pour carefully, my hand will tighten. The stream will jerk. If my mind is quiet, the hand knows. The water knows. The pot knows. My only job is to not interfere with their knowing." His no mind was the silent space in which the intelligence of the action, the intuitive, embodied knowledge of years of practice, could operate flawlessly. His signal fire was the holistic, silent understanding of the entire tea-making ecosystem. His thinking mind was the flashlight he had learned to turn off so he could see the glow. This isn't just Eastern philosophy. It shows up in the most critical Western endeavors. I have a cousin who is a wildland firefighter in the dry mountains of Colorado. He told me about reading the fire. In training, they learn all the science, fuel types, wind patterns, humidity, slope angles. That's the flashlight knowledge. But in the face of a real, roaring blaze, the science can only take you so far. The fire is a living, breathing entity, changing by the second. He said the veteran superintendents, the ones who make the best decisions about where to set a fire break or when to pull crews, have a different quality. They get quiet, he said. In the middle of all the radio chatter and engine noise, they'll just stop. They'll watch the smoke column for a long minute. They'll feel the shift of the wind on their neck. They'll listen to the sound of the burn. They're not just looking at the fire, they're listening to it. And then they'll point and say, "The line goes here," with a certainty that seems to come from the fire itself. They've learned to hear its signal over the noise of their own fear and the data. That is the signal fire in the most literal sense. The superintendent's years of experience have built a deep, silent database. In the crisis, he must quiet his analytical mind. What does the manual say? And his fearful mind, we're all going to die. To access that deeper, intuitive knowing. His life, and the lives of his crew, depend on his ability to find that silence amidst the inferno. For us, the fires are different, a career crossroads, a relationship crisis, a creative block. We try to solve them with more flashlight thinking, more research, more pros and cons lists, more asking for opinions. This is important, but it's only half the equation. We must also create the silent space to read the fire. To listen for the intuitive signal. How? After you've gathered your data, stop. Deliberately create a gap. Go for a walk without your phone. Sit in a park. Do a mundane chore with full attention. Anchor in your breath or body. Let the analytical mind rest. You are not looking for an answer. You are clearing the static. And often, in that quiet, the direction. The sense of the fire break that needs to be built, will arise. Not as a loud command, but as a quiet, felt knowing. A resonance. A sense of rightness that feels solid in your gut, not just clever in your head. Let me share a story about a woman named Lynn, a geologist I met while traveling through the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. Her work involved identifying promising sites for mineral surveys. She showed me a map crisscrossed with lines of geological data. Seismic readings, core samples, magnetic anomalies. It was a textbook example of flashlight thinking, immense amounts of detailed information. But she told me the most valuable tool wasn't on the map. It was what she called desert listening. After reviewing all the data, she would hike out to the general area, find a high point, and just sit. For an hour or more. She wouldn't look at her instruments. She would simply be present with the landscape. The way the wind carved patterns in the sand, the color gradients in the rock layers, the subtle folds of the earth. She was allowing her senses, her silent, holistic perception, to absorb the gestalt of the place. Once, she said, all the data pointed to a site in a broad valley. It made perfect sense on paper. But when I sat there, the place felt inert. Flat. There was no pull. It was just empty space. Frustrated, I climbed a nearby ridge just to get a different view. And from up there, looking across a jagged outcrop, I got a visceral feeling, a kind of magnetic tug in my chest. It was illogical. The terrain was harder to access. The data was less clear. But something in the silent conversation between that rock formation and my intuition said, "Look here." We drilled a test bore there almost against the team's advice. And we hit the largest vein they'd seen in a decade. Lynn's success came from honoring both modes. The flashlight of her analytical training and the signal fire of her silent, intuitive perception. The data gave her the where. The silence gave her the yes. We often think of creativity as a loud, explosive event. The brainstorm. The eureka moment shouted from the bathtub. The artist's studio splattered with paint and passion. And that energy is part of it. But the moment of actual creation, of bringing the formless into form, almost always springs from a deep well of silence. Think of a composer. Before a single note is written on the staff, there is silence. But it's not an empty silence. It's a pregnant, potential-filled silence. In that silence, the composer isn't thinking about notes. He is listening. Listening for the melody that wants to be born. The thinking mind arranges and orchestrates later. But the seed, the theme, the feeling, the essence of the piece, emerges from the quiet. The score is born from the unwritten silence. I learned this not from a composer, but from a master gardener in the English countryside. Her garden was a masterpiece of color, texture, and scent that seemed to flow as naturally as a meadow. I asked her about her design process. Did she draw elaborate plans? She laughed. Plans are for buildings. Gardens are for listening. She took me to a neglected corner of the property, a patch of clay-heavy soil in dappled shade. This spot, she said, has been silent for years. I've tried imposing my ideas, roses, lavender, but they always fail. They shout against the silence of this place. So now, I come and sit here. I feel the coolness, see the quality of the light, smell the damp earth. I wait. And the silence begins to suggest. Not with words. With a feeling. A feeling of ferns. Of soft, mossy green. Of white flowers that will glow in this low light. I don't create the garden. I listen until the garden that belongs here tells me what it is. Then, I simply help it appear. Her creativity was an act of profound receptivity. Her mind was the silent, fertile soil. The ideas were the seeds waiting for the right conditions to germinate. Her job was to not trample the soil with forceful plans, but to prepare it, be patient, and allow the growth to happen according to the silent intelligence of life itself. This applies to any creative act: writing a report, solving an engineering problem, designing a living room, cooking a meal. We often force, striving to make something happen from our limited store of conscious ideas. But what if we approached it as gardeners of silence? What if we prepared the soil of our mind with quiet attention, then waited, listened, and allowed the solution to emerge from a deeper source? I experienced this directly when I was asked to write a eulogy for a dear friend. I sat at my desk, blank page open, and my mind was a howling void of grief and pressure. Say something meaningful. Do her justice. Don't mess this up. The harder I tried to think of the right words, the more hollow and cliched they seemed. I was trying to compose a symphony with a foghorn blaring in my ear. In desperation, I gave up. I closed the laptop. I went for a long walk by the river, with no goal at all. I just walked, feeling the crunch of gravel, watching the water flow. I remembered her laugh. Not in a forced way, but as it arose. I felt the sun on my face and remembered how she loved summer. The thoughts were soft, sensory, wordless. When I returned home and sat down again, the page wasn't blank anymore. It was as if the walk had been the silence between movements. The noisy, striving mind had exhausted itself. And from the quiet that remained, the true words, simple, specific, heartfelt, began to flow. I didn't write the eulogy, I transcribed it from the silence that her memory and my love had filled. The creative source wasn't my thinking brain. It was the silent space that my thinking brain had finally stopped obscuring. Consider the process of a master stone carver I visited in a village near Kathmandu, Nepal. He worked on intricate statues of deities for temples. He had no power tools, only chisels and mallets. I asked him how he knew what to carve from a featureless block of stone. He gave an answer that has stayed with me: the God is already inside the stone. My work is not to put it there. My work is to remove the stone that is hiding it. With every chip, I am asking the stone, are you the God? And when my chisel finally touches the form that was waiting, the stone rings with a different sound. A clear, true ring. That is the sound of meeting what has always been there. The thinking is in choosing which stone to buy. The creating is in the silent listening for the ring. His creative process was literally one of subtraction, of removing noise to reveal the silent signal inherent in the material. Our mental creativity works the same way. The great idea, the elegant solution, the perfect phrase, it's often already present in the vast database of your experience, memory, and subconscious. The frantic thinking adds more stone. The silent listening allows you to hear the ring when your attention touches it. There's a concept in cognitive science called the incubation period in creative problem solving. It's the well-documented phenomenon where you struggle with a problem, hit a wall, then step away and do something else, often something mundane or relaxing, and the solution suddenly pops into your head. What's happening during that walk or shower? The directed, effortful thinking, the flashlight, has been switched off. The mind is in a state of diffuse, relaxed awareness. In that silent, unfocused mode, neural connections can form freely across distant regions of the brain. The signal fire becomes visible. The unwritten score begins to play. You aren't working on the problem, you're allowing the problem to work on itself in the quiet of your being. So the next time you're stuck, creatively or intellectually, remember the stone carver. Remember the gardener. Your job may not be to think harder. It may be to create the silent conditions where thinking is unnecessary, and knowing can emerge. One of the most powerful gifts of sustained silence is that it begins to polish the mirror of your perception. We don't see the world as it is. We see it through a lens smudged with our past experiences, our fears, our desires, our judgments. This lens creates stories. My boss is undermining me. This traffic is ruining my day. I'm not good enough for that opportunity. Silence allows the smudges to clear. Not instantly, but gradually. As you practice resting in awareness, you start to see the stories as stories. You see the thought, my boss is undermining me, arise, and instead of instantly becoming the victim in that drama, you can pause. You can observe the thought. You can feel the clench in your stomach that accompanies it. And in that tiny gap of observation, you might ask, is that absolutely true? Or is it one possible interpretation of his behavior, filtered through my own insecurity? In the Mahayana Buddhist philosophy that flourished along the Silk Road, there's a profound emphasis on sunyata, often translated as emptiness. It doesn't mean nothingness. It means that all things are empty of independent, permanent, solid existence. They arise in dependence on other things, including our perception of them. Our story about a thing is not the thing itself. A modern, psychological way to see this is through a concept called cognitive diffusion. It's the process of learning to see your thoughts as just thoughts, bits of language and imagery passing through, rather than as absolute truths or commands you must obey. Silence is the practice ground for diffusion. When you sit quietly and watch thoughts come and go without grabbing onto them, you are training your brain to have a different relationship with its own content. You are learning that you are the sky, and thoughts are just weather. Let me share a story about Rafi, a lawyer I knew in London. He was a litigator, a professional storyteller in the arena of conflict. His success depended on constructing a compelling, airtight narrative for his client and attacking the narrative of the opposition. He was brilliant, but he was also perpetually anxious, cynical, and saw the world as a chessboard of manipulation. His mind was a constant courtroom, judging everything. After a severe bout of burnout, he was persuaded to try a silent meditation retreat. For 10 days, he did nothing but sit, walk, eat, and sleep in silence. No books, no phone, no conversation. Just him and the carnival of his own mind. He told me the first few days were sheer mental torture. His mind litigated everything, the hardness of the cushion, the incompetence of the teacher, the snoring of the man next to him. He built cases, delivered closing arguments, and won judgments against the universe, all in his head. He was trapped in his own stories with no escape. But around day 5, something shifted. He ran out of energy for the constant commentary. The stories began to feel thin, repetitive, like a record stuck in a groove. In the exhaustion, he simply stopped. He stopped fighting the boredom, the discomfort, the thoughts. He just sat, aware of the ache in his knees, the sound of birds, the play of light on the floor. In that silence, he said, I had the most bizarre experience. I saw a thought arise, this is pointless. And instead of getting into a whole drama about it, see, you're failing at this too. I just saw it. I saw it as a string of words, accompanied by a familiar sinking feeling in my chest. It was like watching a subtitle appear on a screen. And because I didn't jump into the movie, the subtitle just faded. It lost its power. It was just a thing happening, not the truth of my existence. For Rafi, that was a revelation. His entire identity was built on the power of narrative. And here, in the silence, he discovered he could step outside the narrative. He could be the one watching the story, not the character trapped inside it. He returned to London a different kind of lawyer. Still sharp, still strategic, but with an inner quietness. He could now listen to a client's emotional story with compassion without being swept into their panic. He could see the weaknesses in his own case without it triggering a crisis of confidence. The mirror of his mind had been polished. He could see the situation more clearly, with less of his own fear and ego smeared across the glass. This polished mirror effect is crucial for emotional healing. We often believe that to heal from an old wound, a betrayal, a failure, a loss, we must relive the story, analyze it, talk about it endlessly. And while processing is important, there comes a point where retelling the story is just reinforcing the neural pathway of pain. It's keeping the wound open. Silence offers a different path, silent containment. I worked with a woman, Clara, who had carried a deep, unspoken anger toward her father for decades. They had a civil but distant relationship. Talking about it in therapy had helped her understand the why, but the raw, hot emotion was still there, a knot in her solar plexus. I suggested she try a practice of silent, somatic awareness. For 15 minutes each day, she would sit quietly and, instead of thinking about her father or the story of her childhood, she would simply bring her attention to the physical location of the anger, the knot in her gut. Her only instruction was to feel the sensations there. The tightness, the heat, the density. Not to judge them, not to storytell about them, just to feel them as pure physical energy. For weeks, she did this. It was uncomfortable, often intensely so. But she reported a slow change. In the silence, without the words, my father, and, he did this, the anger stopped being a story about the past. It became just, a ball of intense energy in my present body. And a strange thing happened. When I stopped fighting it, just allowed it to be there and felt it fully, it began to move. It would sometimes shift, dissolve into sadness, or just fade for a while. It was like by finally giving it my silent, non-judgmental attention, it felt heard on a level deeper than words, and it could begin to release. She wasn't forgiving her father intellectually. She was allowing the emotional energy, held in silence, to complete its cycle and transform. The polished mirror of her awareness was reflecting the raw sensation, not the old narrative, and in that clear reflection, healing could occur. This principle extends to how we see others. Consider a manager named Ben, who ran a software team in San Francisco. He had an employee, Maya, who was talented but quiet, often missing team lunches and speaking up only when necessary. Ben's story about her, fueled by his own extroverted bias, was, "She's disengaged. She's not a team player. She's hiding something." This story colored all his interactions with her. He gave her less visible projects, interpreted her silence as criticism, and felt a constant low-grade frustration. Then, during a company-wide mindfulness workshop, he was challenged to spend 1 week practicing story-free observation with one person. He chose Maya. His task was simple. In every interaction, he was to consciously drop his story about her and just observe. Listen to her words without filtering them through, "She's disengaged." Notice her work without the label, "Not a team player." He had to anchor himself in the sensory present of their meetings, the tone of her voice, the focus in her eyes, the content of her code commits. By the third day, he told me, the shift was unsettling. I realized I had never actually heard her. I'd been hearing my own commentary about her. He noticed that when she did speak, it was precise and insightful. He saw that her missing team lunches corresponded with deadlines when she was deep in flow, producing exceptional work. He observed that she helped other engineers not with loud advice, but with detailed, written notes on their code. "The story in my head was a caricature," he said. The silent observation revealed a complex, dedicated professional who simply operated differently than I did. My frustration wasn't about her, it was about my story not matching reality. The polished mirror of silent attention allowed him to see Maya clearly for the first time. It changed their working relationship entirely and improved the team's output. He had polished the mirror by ceasing to breathe on it with his own narrative. As we go deeper, the silence begins to challenge our most fundamental assumption, the idea of a separate, solid, permanent me. The ego, the self-story, thrives on noise. It is a collection of thoughts: I am successful, I am a failure, I am a parent, I am my trauma, I am my beliefs. It needs constant reinforcement, constant comparison, constant narrative. In the profound silence of deep meditation or awe-inspiring moments, that story can momentarily fall away. What's left is not a void, but a vast, peaceful sense of being. A sense of being awareness itself, prior to any label. In this space, you may feel a profound connection to everything around you. The boundary between, in here, and out there, softens. The Taoist sages of ancient China spoke of this as Wu Wei and Ziran, effortless action and natural spontaneity arising from being in harmony with the Tao, the fundamental, silent principle of the universe. To them, the separate ego was a contraction, a ripple on the great still water. Enlightenment was sinking back into the water, realizing your true nature as the ocean, not the wave. A modern, scientific metaphor for this is the holographic principle from theoretical physics. In a hologram, every tiny fragment of the film contains the information of the whole three-dimensional image. Theorists suggest the universe itself might operate like a cosmic hologram. That the information of all three-dimensional reality is encoded on a two-dimensional boundary. Apply this to consciousness. Your personal, thinking mind with its unique history is the three-dimensional projection, detailed, specific, seemingly separate. The silent, aware consciousness you touch in deep stillness is the two-dimensional source code. It feels vast and boundless because, in a sense, it is the field from which all individual minds arise. In the silence, you shift your identification from the unique, fragile projection to the stable, shared source. You don't lose your individuality, you understand it as a temporary, beautiful expression of a universal substrate. I had a glimpse of this not on a meditation cushion, but in the desert of Arizona, under a moonless sky. I was with an astronomy group miles from any city light. When the last flashlight was switched off, the darkness was total. And then, as my eyes adjusted, the Milky Way revealed itself, not as a smudge, but as a river of diamond dust, so vast and dense it cast faint shadows on the desert floor. The silence was absolute, a deep, ringing quiet that seemed to be the native sound of space itself. I lay back on the cool sand, gazing up. And in that moment, something in my mind let go. The usual mental chatter, my plans, my worries, my name, felt absurdly small, inconsequential. There was just the seeing. The immense, silent spectacle. And a feeling not of smallness, but of belonging. I wasn't a separate person looking at the universe. I was a point of the universe looking back at itself. The atoms in my body and the atoms in those distant stars were made in the same ancient furnaces. The silence within me and the silence of the cosmic vacuum felt of the same substance. It was a peaceful, wordless understanding of non-separation. That is the gift of the great space. It doesn't negate your life, it contextualizes it. Your personal dramas don't disappear, but they are held in a much larger, quieter container. You realize you are not just the candle flame of your individual life, frantically dancing and fearing the wind. You are also the still, dark, limitless room in which all flames arise and dance. This realization is the end of existential loneliness. This experience has parallels in deep meditation, but also in extreme physical exertion. A long-distance runner friend, someone who competes in 100-mile ultramarathons, described a similar dissolution. Around mile 70, she said, when every muscle is screaming and your mind has run out of motivational slogans, there's a point where the runner disappears. The pain is still there, the landscape is still passing by, but the internal narrator, the one saying, "I am in pain, I am tired, I am a runner," just burns off. What's left is a pure, silent awareness moving through a world of sensation. There's no separation between me and the trail, me and the rhythm of my breath. There's just the moving, the hurting, the seeing. It's incredibly peaceful, even in the agony. You're no longer a self running a race. You are the race happening. In that state, the ego's story collapses under the weight of sheer presence. The mind becomes too tired to maintain the fiction of a separate controller. What remains is the great space of awareness, intimately one with the experience. This is a glimpse of what mystics point to, the realization that your true identity is not the content of your experience, but the context in which all experience appears. The practical value of touching this great space, even briefly, is immense. It provides an unshakable foundation. When you know, directly, that you are the ocean and not just the wave, the inevitable crashes and troughs of life lose their ultimate terror. A wave can be turbulent, but the ocean remains vast and deep. You can engage fully in the drama of the wave, your career, your relationships, your passions, while resting in the knowledge of your true nature as the ocean. This is the source of real fearlessness and profound peace. With this understanding of the great space, we can return to action with a completely different quality. This is where silence meets strength. Not the brittle strength of forced control, but the resilient, flexible strength of Wu Wei, action that is in effortless alignment with the flow of reality. Think of a blacksmith at his forge. The fire is roaring, the metal is glowing. If he attacks the metal with frantic, angry blows, he will shatter it. If he is timid and uncertain, he will leave no impression. The master blacksmith's strength comes from a deep, centered calm. He feels the heat, hears the sound of the hammer, senses the malleability of the steel in the moment. His strikes are powerful, precise, and timed not from his thinking mind, but from his silent, unified awareness of the entire process, the fire, the metal, his own body. He is not fighting the metal, he is collaborating with it. He is in a silent dialogue with the forces at play. That is Wu Wei. Silence forges this kind of resilience within you. When life strikes you with the hammer of loss, failure, or shock, your untrained self may try to fight it, anger, blame, or flee from it, denial, numbness. Both are forms of resistance that create suffering. But with a practiced connection to your silent core, you have a third option, to be like the master's metal, strong, yet malleable. You can feel the full, searing heat of the grief without letting it consume your identity. You can acknowledge the blow without shattering. Your awareness becomes the anvil, solid, unmoving, providing the stable ground upon which the shaping occurs. The pain is the fire. The experience is the hammer. And you are the silent, aware space that holds it all, allowing yourself to be transformed without being destroyed. A powerful example of this comes from the tradition of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with lacquer dusted with gold. The breakage is not hidden. It is illuminated, celebrated as part of the object's history. The repaired piece is often considered more beautiful, more resilient, and more valuable than the original. The silent, mindful process of repair is a form of Wu Wei. You don't force the pieces back together pretending the break never happened. You carefully, patiently, honor the break. You apply the golden adhesive with total attention. You allow the new, stronger whole to emerge from the acknowledgement of the damage. Your own silent awareness, applied to your wounds, is the gold. It doesn't erase the cracks of your experience, it integrates them, making your character more complex, more beautiful, and unbreakable in a new way. I saw this silent resilience in a man named Thomas, a boat builder on the coast of Maine. He crafted traditional wooden dinghies, peapods, using methods unchanged for a century. I watched him steam bend a stubborn oak plank to form the graceful curve of the hull. He applied heat and moisture, then slowly, incrementally, cranked it into place with a come-along. The wood groaned and protested. A younger apprentice, watching, grew tense. "It's going to snap," he whispered. Thomas didn't look up. His hands rested on the wood, feeling its vibration. "It'll tell us," he said, his voice calm. He cranked another quarter-inch. The groaning intensified. He paused. He closed his eyes for a moment, his hands still on the plank. He was listening, through his fingertips, to the conversation between the wood's strength and the pressure being applied. It was a silent negotiation. After a long minute, he opened his eyes, gave the come-along a tiny, subtle slack, not a release, but a yielding. And then cranked again, this time at a slightly different angle. The groaning eased. The wood surrendered into the sweet, perfect curve he needed. It hadn't broken, it had been persuaded. Thomas later explained, the wood has its own intelligence. Its own breaking point. If you just force your idea onto it, you get kindling. You have to argue with it silently. You push, it resists. You listen. You yield a little. You push from a slightly different place. It's a dance. Your plan is just the first suggestion. The real blueprint emerges in the silent dialogue between your hands and the grain. That is resilience in action. It is not rigid insistence on a predetermined outcome. It is a strong, silent, attentive flexibility that responds to reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Thomas's strength was in his ability to be silent in the midst of the strain, to feel the feedback, and to adjust his action accordingly. He was practicing Wu Wei with oak and tar. Our lives require the same skill with relationships, careers, and personal challenges. This principle is vital in navigating conflict. Most conflicts escalate because both parties are locked in a noisy struggle of wills, each trying to force their reality onto the other, like two blacksmiths hammering against each other's anvils. Wu Wei in conflict means shifting from forcing to sensing. It means becoming silent enough to feel the grain of the other person's perspective, the underlying need or fear beneath their position. I knew a couple, Sophia and Mark, who were locked in a classic, exhausting argument about finances. He wanted to invest aggressively for early retirement. She wanted more security and discretionary spending now. Their conversations were cycles of accusation and defense, noise. They agreed to try a silent listening exercise. The rule was simple. When one person spoke, the other could only listen, in silence, with the sole goal of understanding. No preparing a rebuttal. No defending. Just listening to understand the feeling and need behind the words. Mark went first. As Sophia explained her fear of scarcity, her childhood memories of financial instability, Mark just listened. He felt his own defensive arguments rise, but he let them pass, keeping his attention on her face, her tone. In the silence of his non-reaction, he heard something new. It wasn't about the money. It was about her fear of the future, feeling unsafe and out of control. When it was his turn, Sophia listened as he spoke not just about numbers, but about his father working himself into an early grave, and his deep desire for freedom and time. She heard the yearning, not just the spreadsheet. The silence in their listening created a gap. And in that gap, their rigid positions softened. They weren't two forces clashing anymore. They were two people with understandable fears and desires, trying to build a life together. The solution didn't come from one forcing the other to change their mind. It emerged from the silent space of mutual understanding, a financial plan that had both secure foundations and aggressive growth components, satisfying both the need for safety and the desire for freedom. The conflict wasn't won. It was dissolved in the silent forge of attentive listening. The power of silence isn't confined to the individual. It transforms how we are together. In a world of crosstalk, debate, and performance, the deepest communication often happens in the shared quiet. The religious society of Friends, the Quakers, understand this profoundly. Their worship is based on silent meeting. They gather and sit in collective stillness, waiting. There is no priest, no liturgy. If someone feels moved by the Spirit to speak, they do. Then the silence returns, absorbing the words. The wisdom is democratized. It's not handed down from an authority, it arises from the depth of the shared silence, accessible to anyone. This creates a different kind of listening, generative listening. Most of us listen to reply, to fix, to agree, or to disagree. Our minds are composing our response while the other person is still talking. Generative listening is listening to understand, to receive, to allow the other person's truth to exist fully in the space between you without immediately framing it with your own. It is listening with a silent mind. I experienced a beautiful form of this in Nepal, in a Sherpa community high in the Khumbu Valley. I was a guest in a family's home. After the evening meal, we sat around the dung-fueled stove. There was little conversation. Not because of language barrier. Many spoke some English, but because it wasn't the custom. We just sat in the warm, smoky silence, drinking salted butter tea. At first, my Western mind was screaming, "This is awkward. Say something. Ask a question." But as the silence stretched, that discomfort faded. Without words, other senses came alive. I noticed the care in the grandmother's hands as she mended a sock. I saw the father's eyes, calm and watchful in the firelight. I felt the simple, wordless contentment of being warm, fed, and safe together. We weren't exchanging information, we were sharing presence. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of a mutual, unspoken understanding and respect. When I rose to leave, the father simply nodded and smiled, a look of deep connection in his eyes. More had been communicated in that hour of silence than in many hours of conversation. In our relationships, we can practice this. Next time someone is speaking to you, especially if they are upset or sharing something vulnerable, try this, silent listening. Don't plan your response. Don't judge their story. Just listen. Let there be a full second of silence after they finish before you say anything. Let their words settle in the space between you. Often, that silent space is what allows them to hear what they've just said, or to feel truly heard for the first time. Your silent presence is the greatest gift you can offer. This communal silence is also a powerful tool in group creativity and problem solving. I facilitated a workshop for a design team in Oslo that was stuck on a project. They were brilliant individuals, but their meetings were a cacophony of competing ideas, quick critiques, and interrupted sentences. Everyone was talking, no one was being heard. I introduced a simple structure inspired by Native American council circles and Quaker practice. We sat in a circle. The only rule was that before anyone could speak, they had to hold a small, smooth stone and wait for 3 breaths of silence after the previous speaker finished. They then spoke only from their direct experience, I feel, I notice, I wonder, without referencing or critiquing others' ideas. After speaking, they placed the stone in the center, signaling the opening of silent space for the next person. The change was palpable. The aggressive energy dissipated. The 3-breath silence created a buffer that prevented reactive debate. Because people couldn't immediately jump on others' ideas, they had to sit with them. They listened more deeply. Ideas began to build upon each other not through argument, but through a kind of silent accretion, like crystals forming in a still solution. The quietest member of the team, who rarely spoke in the old format, offered the insight that became the cornerstone of the final design. The silence had created a container where her voice could be heard. The noise of competition had been replaced by the quiet synergy of collective attention. There is also healing in shared, wordless silence. Consider the powerful tradition of sitting Shiva in Judaism. After a death, mourners gather. While there is conversation and storytelling, there are also long periods where people simply sit together, in the shared, heavy silence of grief. No one tries to fix it or say the right thing. They just bear witness to the loss, together, in quiet presence. That communal silence says, this pain is too big for words. We will not abandon you to it. We will hold it with you, in silence. The silence becomes a collective container, making the unbearable a little more bearable. We can offer this in smaller ways. Sitting with a friend going through a divorce, not offering advice, just being there. Standing with someone who has received bad news, without rushing to fill the air with platitudes. This communal silence is an act of profound courage and love. It requires us to let go of our need to do something and simply be with. It is in these wordless spaces that the deepest bonds of our shared humanity are forged. All of this leads to the most practical question: how do you live it? How does the cathedral become your home, not just a place you visit on Sunday? The answer is through the ritual of return. You don't need to live in a cave. You need to build tiny, consistent rituals that call you back to the silent center of your own spinning wheel. Your life is that spinning wheel. The outer rim is a blur of activity, emails, chores, commutes, conversations. It spins fast. If you live on the rim, you feel dizzy, frantic, centrifugal force threatening to throw you off. But every wheel has a silent, still center, the axle. It does not move. The entire productive function of the wheel depends on the stability of this silent center. Your daily rituals of silence, the morning minutes of anchoring, the mindful breaths, the sensory pauses, are not an escape from the spinning wheel of life. They are the daily maintenance and conscious inhabiting of the silent center. The more you anchor your identity in that still point of awareness, the more you can engage with the spinning rim of your busy life with balance, clarity, and purpose. You work from the calm center, and your actions carry the quality of that calm into the world. Here are a few simple, powerful rituals. Ritual number 1, the threshold pause. Whenever you cross a threshold, literal or metaphorical, pause for one breath. Doorway of your home. Doorway of your office. Before picking up the phone. Before opening an email. That one conscious breath is a ritual of transition. It marks the end of one space and the beginning of another, and centers you in the present for what comes next. Ritual number 2, the task sanctuary. Choose one mundane daily task, washing dishes, making coffee, brushing your teeth, and perform it only for its own sake, with full sensory attention. No podcast. No planning. Just the feel of the water. The smell of the soap. The sound of the bristles. For those 2 minutes, that task is your meditation. Your sanctuary. Ritual number 3, the evening unwind. For the last 5 minutes before sleep, do nothing. Don't look at a screen. Don't read. Just sit or lie in the dark, and feel the weight of your body on the bed. Feel the breath moving. Let the day's events replay if they must, but watch them as if on a distant screen, without getting drawn into the drama. You are depositing yourself back into the silent center before sleep resets the wheel. The key to these rituals is not duration, but consistency and intention. It's the daily drip of water that, over time, wears down the stone of habit. A friend of mine, a single mother of 2 young boys in Chicago, told me her ritual was what she called the laundry room refuge. For just the 2 minutes it took to transfer clothes from the washer to the dryer, she would close the door, lean against the humming machine, and just feel the vibrations through her back. She'd take 3 deep breaths, feeling the warmth and humidity of the small room. That was it. 2 minutes, twice a day. But she said those moments of enforced, sensory silence, amidst the chaos of parenting, work, and life, became her lifeline. They were her way of touching the axle while the wheel of motherhood spun at a breathtaking pace. It wasn't a retreat from her life, it was a way to be more fully present within it. Another powerful ritual is what I call the commute reclamation. For most, a commute is dead time, filled with noise, radio, podcasts, traffic frustration. But it can be transformed into a moving meditation. A man I knew in Seattle had a 45-minute bus ride each way. He instituted a rule: no devices. Instead, he practiced window gazing. He would pick a single sense to focus on for each leg of the journey. In the morning, he would just listen. Not to music, but to the soundscape of the city, the rhythm of the bus engine, the fragments of conversation, the rain on the roof. On the way home, he would just look. Noticing light and shadow on buildings, the expressions on people's faces, the way the city changed block by block. He told me that this simple reframing turned a stressful waste of time into a daily immersion in presence. He arrived at work and at home noticeably calmer, more observant, and less burdened by the mental baggage he used to carry on that bus. The digital Sabbath is a more substantial ritual gaining traction in our hyper-connected age. It's not about rejecting technology, but about creating a conscious container of silence within it. This could be 1 hour every evening where devices are put away, or a full day on the weekend. The point is to create a space where your attention is not being auctioned off to the highest digital bidder. In that created silence, something remarkable happens: boredom arises. And in that boredom, which is just the mind detoxing from constant stimulation, creativity, reflection, and genuine connection often spontaneously ignite. You might find yourself picking up a forgotten instrument, having a long conversation with a family member, or simply staring out the window, rediscovering the texture of your own thoughts. The digital Sabbath is a ritual of reclaiming your own mind as sovereign territory. Perhaps the most profound daily ritual is the practice of gratitude in silence. We often think of gratitude as a list we make in our heads. But silent gratitude is felt, not thought. It's a pause to let a felt sense of appreciation wash through you, without attaching words to it. Before a meal, instead of a recited prayer, try 10 seconds of silent attention to the fact of the food, the labor that brought it, the miracle of your body that will digest it. When you hug someone you love, for 1 second, drop the story and just feel the warmth, the pressure, the alive presence of the other. This silent, sensory gratitude roots thankfulness in the present moment, making it an immediate experience rather than a conceptual exercise. These rituals are the stitches that sew the fabric of silence into the garment of your daily life. They don't require extra time, they require a shift in attention within the time you already have. They are how you remember, dozens of times a day, that you are the weaver, the silent center, the cathedral itself. We often think of purpose as something to be found. A destination on a map, a job title, a grand mission we must discover through relentless searching and noisy striving. We ask the frantic question, "What is my purpose?" as if the answer exists outside of us, waiting to be uncovered like buried treasure. But from the vantage point of the Silent Cathedral, purpose looks different. It is not something to be found, but something to be uncovered from within. It is not a loud declaration, but a quiet unfolding. Think of it as the seed trapped inside a stone. From the outside, the stone appears inert, solid, purposeless. But within it, held in perfect stillness, is the latent potential of a tree. The tree's purpose isn't to break the stone, that is merely a necessary passage. The tree's purpose is to express its inherent nature, to grow toward the light, to leaf, to bear fruit. The silent work is the patient, persistent force of life within the seed, not striving against the stone, but steadily being itself until the stone can no longer contain it. Your deepest purpose operates the same way. It is not a job, but a direction of growth. It is the expression of your most authentic nature, your unique constellation of talents, values, and quiet joys. Pressing against the confines of your conditioning, your fears, and society's expectations. The noise of, "What should I do with my life?" is the sound of the seed anxiously rattling inside the stone. The silence of deep listening is how you attune to the steady, directional push of the life force within you. I met a man in a small coastal village in Thailand who embodied this. His name was Panya. For decades, he had been a successful, stressed businessman in Bangkok. In his late 50s, burned out and feeling empty, he took a sabbatical to this quiet village. At first, he was restless. The silence was maddening. But slowly, with nothing to do, he began to walk the beach every day. He noticed the incredible amount of plastic washed ashore. He started picking it up, idly at first. Then it became a daily ritual. Then he began to notice the types of plastic, the brands, where it might have come from. Without any plan, he started sketching designs. Could this bottle become a planter? Could this net be woven into a bag? He wasn't thinking, "My purpose is environmental activism." He was simply following a quiet pull of attention, a combination of his latent skill for design and a growing, wordless care for the place. He began experimenting in silence, making simple things. Local children got curious, then involved. Without a business plan or a non-profit mission statement, a community recycling and art project organically grew. When I met him, he was peaceful in a way he said he'd never been. In Bangkok, I was looking for purpose in titles and bank accounts, he said. Here, I wasn't looking at all. I was just cleaning a beach. And purpose found me in the quiet of that simple action. It was inside me all along, like a seed. I just had to be still enough for it to crack the stone of my old life. Panya's story illustrates that purpose emerges not from a 5-year plan, but from a quality of attention. What activity, however small, makes you forget time? What gentle pull of curiosity do you habitually ignore because it seems impractical? That quiet pull is the seed. Your job is not to invent a purpose, but to create enough silent, attentive space in your life for the purpose already encoded within you to germinate and grow. This requires a radical trust in silence. We are conditioned to believe that if we are not visibly striving, we are falling behind. That stillness is stagnation. But in the natural world, the most potent phases of growth are often invisible and silent. Winter's stillness, the seed in the dark soil, the pupa in the chrysalis, these are not periods of inaction. They are periods of profound, silent transformation. A woman I'll call Elena was a high-achieving academic who felt a growing, inexplicable dissatisfaction. She had the career, the publications, the respect. But she felt like a shell. During a mandatory sabbatical, she panicked. Doing nothing felt like professional suicide. Yet, with no experiments to run or papers to write, she was forced into stillness. She took long, aimless walks. She sat in her garden for hours. She felt guilty and anxious for months. Then, in the deep boredom of that silence, a memory surfaced, not as a thought, but as a vivid sensory experience. She was 7 years old, utterly absorbed in watching ants build a nest, fascinated by their intricate, collective intelligence. That forgotten sense of wonder, raw, curious, and divorced from achievement, flooded her. It was a clue. In the following months, other forgotten threads emerged, a love for storytelling, a fascination with myth. In the silent space of her sabbatical, these disconnected threads began, without her forcing, to weave together. She didn't go back to her lab with a new thesis. She slowly began to write a book for the public, weaving science with ancient myths about cooperation in nature. It became a bestseller and a new career direction she could never have planned. Her productive sabbatical looked like idle silence from the outside. On the inside, it was the fertile dark where the seed of her authentic intellectual joy finally broke through the stone of her conditioned ambition. We make thousands of decisions, small and large, in a fog of noise. Internal noise: what will they think? What if I fail? Is this the right thing? External noise: endless opinions, comparison on social media, the tyranny of best practices. We treat decision-making like a courtroom drama, weighing evidence, listening to opposing counsel, and hoping for a slam-dunk verdict. But the clearest decisions often come not from more debate, but from a moment of silent clarity. Imagine your mind as a lens. When it is agitated with thoughts and emotions, the lens is clouded, frosted. You can't see clearly. All the data, all the pros and cons, are distorted. The practice of silence is the act of polishing that lens, of letting the condensation evaporate so you can see the situation with stark simplicity. In the Zen tradition, this is sometimes called beginner's mind, Shoshin, a state free of the preconceptions and complications that cloud the expert's view. It's seeing the choice fresh, as if for the first time. A CEO I advised was facing a monumental decision. Sell the company he'd built for a life-changing sum, or take on massive debt to scale it and shoot for an even bigger outcome. His board was split. His family was anxious. His mind was a storm of spreadsheets, projections, and fear. He'd reached analysis paralysis. I asked him to do something counterintuitive, to stop analyzing for 24 hours. Instead, he was to perform 2 simple, silent exercises. First, the Bodhisattva's pause. He was to sit quietly and imagine he had already chosen path A, to sell. He was to live with that decision in his imagination for an hour, not thinking about outcomes, but feeling it in his body. How did it feel in his gut, his chest, his shoulders? He was to note the somatic signature of that choice. Then, after a break, he was to do the same for path B, to scale. Second, the mountain view. He was to go for a long walk in a nearby park, with the instruction to not think about the decision at all. Instead, he was to imagine his mind as a mountain, and every thought about the decision as a cloud passing by. His job was just to be the mountain, stable, silent, observing the weather of his thoughts without getting caught in the storm. When we spoke the next day, he was calm. It was obvious, he said. When I imagined selling, my body felt like it was deflating. A sense of relief mixed with deep loss. It felt like an ending. When I imagined scaling, I felt a terrifying thrill, a sense of aliveness and forward momentum, even with the fear. The mountain exercise showed me that all my analysis was just two clouds, fear of regret and fear of failure, fighting each other. When I got silent enough to see past them, the choice wasn't about money. It was about who I wanted to be for the next chapter of my life. I'm scaling the company. The numbers matter, but they weren't the deciding factor. The silence was. His clarity came when he stopped looking at the lens, the frosted-over analysis, and started polishing the lens itself through silent, somatic awareness. The decision didn't change, his ability to see it clearly did. This silent clarity is crucial for ethical decisions as well, where the right choice is often murky. A doctor friend specializing in palliative care told me about her most difficult consultations. The family is emotional, the data on prognosis is uncertain, the options are agonizing. She said her training now includes a silent minute. Before responding to a family's questions or offering a recommendation, she consciously pauses. She feels her feet on the floor, takes a breath, and creates a pocket of stillness amidst the emotional hurricane. In that minute, she said, I'm not thinking about medical journals or protocols. I'm listening for something else. The unspoken love in the room, the particular fear behind a daughter's anger, my own intuitive sense of the patient's unvoiced will. The right medical path often becomes clearer when I first get quiet enough to hear the human truth it's supposed to serve. Her decision-making process includes the data, but it is rooted in the silent, compassionate awareness that holds the data. We can apply this to everyday choices. Before saying yes to a new commitment, pause for 3 breaths. Feel the body's response. A tightness. A lightness. Before reacting angrily to a provocation, create a silent gap. In that gap, you may see the difference between the other person's action and your ingrained story about it. Silence doesn't tell you what to choose, it gives you the clarity to see what you're actually choosing between. We think connection is built through words, through shared stories, through expressed agreement. But the deepest and most healing connections are often built on a foundation of shared silence. This is the unspoken bridge. It's what happens when two people put down the tools of language and simply meet in the field of mutual presence. When you sit with someone in comfortable, wordless silence, something profound occurs beneath the surface. The social masks, the performative selves, the constant curation of identity that language requires, all of that begins to relax. What remains is the simple, shared fact of being. In that space, you don't connect with the other person's story, you connect with their presence. And in doing so, you often touch a common humanity that is more fundamental than any difference in opinion, background, or belief. This is powerfully utilized in practices like Vipassana meditation retreats, where participants observe noble silence for days. People from all walks of life sit together, eat together, walk together, without uttering a word or making eye contact. You'd think this would feel isolating. Yet, many report a paradoxical feeling of deep, wordless connection to the others in the hall. Stripped of the ability to judge others by their speech or to manage their own image, people connect through the shared, palpable humanity of the struggle, the collective fidgeting, the shared sighs, the quiet perseverance. You feel, without a word being spoken, that you are not alone in your humanity. The silence becomes the bridge. I witnessed a beautiful, everyday example of this in a community garden in Portugal. An elderly man, João, and a teenage girl, Inés, who had recently moved from the city, were assigned neighboring plots. They had nothing obvious in common. He spoke little, she was immersed in her headphones. For weeks, they worked in parallel, silent solitude. One very hot afternoon, João was struggling to lift a heavy bag of soil. Without a word, Inés walked over, took the other end, and helped him move it. He nodded. She nodded back. The next day, she was trying to decipher the Portuguese seed packets. He silently walked over, pointed to a diagram of sun and water needs on the back of his own packet, then to a spot in her plot. She understood. They never developed a conversational friendship. But over the season, a silent language grew. He would leave surplus seedlings on the edge of her plot. She would read a bit into his plot if she finished early. They'd sometimes just sit on their respective benches at the end of the day, watching the sunset over the rows of vegetables, in a companionship that needed no explanation. The silence of the shared task, the shared sun, the shared earth, built a bridge of mutual care that was more tangible than any conversation could have been. They connected not through personality, but through presence and simple, silent action. This unspoken bridge is the foundation of true compassion. Often, when someone is suffering, our instinct is to rush in with words, with advice, reassurance, or our own similar stories. While well-intentioned, this can often feel like we're building a wall of our own ideas between us and their pain. We're trying to fix the unfixable, or worse, we're trying to escape the discomfort of their silence by filling it with our noise. Compassionate silence is different. It is the courage to step onto the bridge and simply be with the other person in their pain, without an agenda. It says, I cannot walk this path for you, but I will not let you walk it alone. I will hold this space with you. This silent holding is an act of profound validation. It acknowledges that some experiences are too vast for language. Your silent, steady presence becomes a container for their grief, fear, or anger, a container that says, this, too, belongs. This is part of life, and I am not turning away from it, and I am not turning away from you. A hospice nurse once told me, the most important tool in my bag is not medicine. It's my ability to sit in the roaring silence at the edge of life and not flinch. To hold a dying person's hand and not say, it's okay, but to just be there, breathing with them, letting the silence speak what words cannot. You are seen. You are not alone. This moment, however hard, is being witnessed. That silence is where love becomes an action word. We can practice this in smaller ways. Sitting with a friend who has just been laid off, resisting the urge to immediately brainstorm job leads, and instead just listening, or even sitting quietly together. Standing with a neighbor who has suffered a loss, not needing to say the perfect thing, but simply bringing a meal and sharing a moment of quiet solidarity. In these moments, we are building the unspoken bridge. We are using silence not to disconnect, but to connect at the most fundamental level of shared human experience. Finally, we come to silence not as a momentary refuge, but as the very root system that sustains a life of meaning and endurance. A tree's glory is in its leaves, its branches, its fruit, all visible, active, and dynamic. But its survival through storm and drought depends on its silent, hidden roots, spreading deep and wide in the dark earth, drawing nourishment and providing unwavering stability. Our visible life, our actions, relationships, achievements, is the canopy. Our silent, inner practice is the root system. Without healthy roots, the most magnificent canopy will wither in the first strong wind or extended dry season. We spend most of our time and energy pruning and admiring the canopy, while neglecting the roots. We wonder why we feel so fragile, so easily depleted. The practices we've discussed, the anchors, the rituals, the polished mirror, the great space, are all root work. They are not always glamorous. Sitting alone with your breath is not as visually impressive as giving a great speech. Feeling the sensations of anxiety in your body doesn't yield a tangible product. But this root work is what allows you to stand when the storms of life hit, the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, a health crisis, or simply the accumulated wear of daily stress. A story comes from the ancient Bhikkhunis, Buddhist nuns, of Sri Lanka. They maintained a practice called Rukamula Senasana, dwelling at the foot of a tree. The simplicity was extreme: one robe, one alms bowl, and the shelter of a tree. The point was to cultivate an unshakable root system of inner silence and contentment that was independent of all external conditions, weather, comfort, social approval. Their resilience was not in fighting the storm, but in having roots so deep that the storm could not uproot them. Their inner silence was their true shelter. We see a modern, secular echo of this in people who demonstrate remarkable resilience. Viktor Frankl, writing of his survival in Nazi concentration camps, identified that the one thing the guards could not take was a person's inner freedom, the silent space of their own mind and attitude. Those who could retreat to and find meaning in that inner silence, even amidst unimaginable horror, were the ones who endured. His root system was his sense of meaning, accessed in the silent recesses of his own consciousness. You don't need a concentration camp to benefit from this. Everyday life provides its own droughts and winds. The root system of silence is what prevents burnout, because you are nourished from a source deeper than external success. It's what prevents you from being shattered by criticism, because your sense of worth is rooted in the silent ground of being, not in the shifting opinions of others. It's what allows you to be patient in difficulty, because you are tapped into the slow, deep time of the earth, not the frantic time of the clock. How do you tend these roots? You commit to the daily, unglamorous work. You sit even when you don't feel like it. You take the threshold pause even when you're rushed. You listen silently even when you're bursting with your own opinion. You feel the anxiety in your body instead of immediately distracting yourself from it. Each of these acts is like sending a tiny rootlet deeper into the soil of your own awareness. Over time, this creates stability. You become less reactive, less needy, less afraid. You can endure more because you are drawing from a deeper well. The canopy of your life may still sway in the wind, but you will not topple. This root system also connects you to a timeless perspective. The roots of a giant redwood intertwine with the roots of other redwoods, and they connect to the mycelial network that has been in the forest for millennia. When you sit in deep silence, you touch the root system of human consciousness itself, the accumulated wisdom, the shared struggles, the fundamental questions that have always been there. You realize your life is not an isolated event, but a shoot emerging from an ancient, interconnected web of life and awareness. This realization ends existential loneliness and provides a comfort and perspective that nothing in the transient canopy of your life can provide. Your silent practice is how you drink from that deep, shared aquifer. It's how you remember you are part of something vast, enduring, and intelligent. And from that remembering, you can live your particular, temporary, beautiful life with courage, compassion, and unshakable peace. There is a final, transformative quality that deepens as your practice of silence matures. We can call it becoming an empty vessel. This doesn't mean being empty of personality or life, but empty of preconceptions, fixed views, and the compulsive need to label and categorize every experience. It is the state of readiness to receive the world as it is, not as you think it should be. Imagine your mind as a cup. If it is already full of your opinions, judgments, and past experiences, there is no room for anything new to enter. Every sight, sound, and encounter is filtered through the stale tea of yesterday's thoughts. The world becomes a dull reflection of your own mental content. But if you can empty the cup, even momentarily, through silence, the world pours in fresh, vivid, and unexpected. This is the essence of beginner's mind, Shoshin. The Japanese Zen master Shunryu Suzuki famously said, "In the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few." The expert's mind is full. The beginner's mind is empty, and therefore open, curious, and fertile. Silence is the practice of returning to beginner's mind again and again. I learned about this from an unlikely teacher, a bird watcher in the wetlands of southern India. He was a retired engineer who spent his days sitting perfectly still in a blind, watching for migratory birds. I asked him what the secret was to seeing rare species. He said, "You must become empty. If you sit there full of desire, I must see the painted stork, you will miss everything. Your wanting creates a tension that the birds sense. You are not present, you are projecting. Instead, you must sit until you forget what you are looking for. You become just eyes, just ears, a part of the reeds and the water. When your mind is empty of stork, that is often when the stork or something more wonderful appears. The silence is not outside you, it is the emptiness inside you that allows the outside world to truly enter." His practice was a perfect metaphor for living. When we approach our day full of expectations, about how our partner should act, how our work should go, how our life should look, we are full. We are constantly comparing reality to our mental picture, and finding it lacking. We miss the actual, unique beauty and truth of what is happening because we are only seeing it through the filter of what we want. Silence empties the cup. It allows you to meet the present moment on its own terms, not yours. This quality of empty vessel is crucial for learning at any age. A brilliant violin teacher in Vienna had a method for dealing with advanced students who had hit a plateau. She would have them play a complex piece, and then she would take their instrument and say, "Now, for the next week, you do not touch the violin. You only listen. Listen to recordings, yes, but more importantly, sit in silence and hear the piece in your mind. Let your mind, not your fingers, learn the spaces between the notes." The students would return frustrated, feeling they had lost a week of practice. But when they played again, their performance was invariably transformed. More nuanced, more musical, less mechanical. The week of silent, receptive listening had emptied them of their habitual, striving way of playing, allowing a fresher, more authentic expression to come through. They had become empty vessels, and the music filled them anew. We can apply this to any skill or relationship. Before a difficult conversation, empty yourself of your rehearsed arguments. Before a creative task, empty yourself of the pressure to be original. Simply be present, receptive, and see what arises from the silence of not knowing. The most profound insights and connections often come when we stop trying to impose our full cup onto the world and instead offer it our emptiness. When you drop a stone into a deep, still well, there is a moment of silence before you hear the echo. That echo tells you something true about the well, its depth, the nature of its walls. In the same way, when you offer a question or a problem into the deep, still well of your own silent awareness, there is often a period of quiet, and then an echo arises. Not an audible sound, but a knowing, an insight, a clarity that reveals the truth of the situation. This is different from thinking. Thinking is like dropping many stones in quickly, creating a chaotic splash that obscures any clear echo. It's noisy, superficial, and often circles the rim of the well. Silence is allowing the stone of your sincere inquiry to sink all the way down into the depths, and then patiently waiting for the true, resonant response to return to you. A Tibetan meditation master once described this process as letting the question dissolve in the space of the mind. You don't attack the question with more questions. You don't desperately seek an answer from books or other people. You hold the question lightly, like a feather on your palm, and then you let your awareness expand into silence. You create space around the question. And often, in that space, the question itself transforms, or the answer arises as a self-evident truth, or you realize you were asking the wrong question entirely. I experienced this in a very practical way. Years ago, I was struggling with whether to leave a long-term professional partnership. It was agonizing. I made lists, sought counsel, and thought myself in circles. The more I thought, the more confused I became. Finally, on a retreat, I brought just this one question into my meditation: what is the right path? For days, nothing. Just the question hanging in the silent space of my mind. Then, one morning, as I sat in stillness, the question itself suddenly seemed ridiculous. like asking, which way is up, when you're floating in the ocean. The echo that returned wasn't, stay, or, go. It was a deep, somatic knowing, you are not trapped. You are free. The clarity wasn't about the decision, it was about my relationship to the dilemma. The perceived cage was made of my own fearful thinking. From that silent knowing, the external decision became simple, almost incidental. I knew what to do, not because I had figured it out, but because the silence had revealed the truth of my freedom, and from that free place, action was obvious. This echo in the well is why many traditions insist that the answers to our deepest spiritual questions cannot be given, they must be realized. A master can point to the well, but you must drop your own stone and listen for your own echo. Silence is the medium through which personal revelation occurs. We can use this in smaller ways. When faced with a moral dilemma, don't just run through ethical frameworks. Sit with it in silence. Feel the tension of the dilemma in your body. Drop the stone of, what should I do, into the well and listen. The echo might be a feeling of unease about one path, a shallow, tinny echo, and a feeling of integrity about another, a deep, resonant one. When trying to understand a complex emotional reaction in yourself, stop analyzing your childhood. Just sit with the raw emotion in silence. The echo might be a forgotten memory arising on its own, or a simple, clear understanding like, this isn't about now, this is old fear. The practice is one of trust. Trust that your own awareness, when silent and spacious, is intelligent and truthful. It may not give you the answer your wanting mind desires, but it will give you the truth you need. Your job is to learn to be still enough, and patient enough, to hear it. The untrained mind perceives life as a series of disconnected events, a traffic jam, a work email, an evening news headline, a personal worry. It's a chaotic, fragmented parade of stimuli that we frantically try to manage. We live in the dots and miss the pattern that connects them. Silence, especially sustained, deep silence, has a miraculous effect. It allows the pattern to emerge. It shifts perception from the isolated fragments to the underlying wholeness. This is akin to the experience of looking at a Pointillist painting by Seurat. Up close, you see only thousands of disparate, colored dots. It looks like random noise. But when you take several steps back, a remarkable transformation occurs. The individual dots blur, and a coherent, beautiful image emerges, a woman with a parasol, a Sunday afternoon in the park. The silence of the mind is like taking those steps back. It creates the necessary distance from the compulsive focus on the dots of your thoughts and immediate experiences, allowing the larger picture of your life, its themes, its flow, its inherent intelligence, to become visible. In the holistic medical traditions of Ayurveda in India, health is not seen as the absence of disease in one organ, but as the dynamic balance and harmonious flow of life forces throughout the entire system. A master Vaidya, physician, would often begin a diagnosis not with a barrage of tests, but by observing the patient in silence, their gait, their breath, the light in their eyes, the quality of their pulse. They were listening for the pattern, the music of the person's constitution, of which specific symptoms were just dissonant notes. The treatment was never just to silence the cough, the dot, but to restore the harmony of the whole system, the pattern. Their deep, silent attention was the tool for perceiving wholeness. You can apply this to your own life. When you are caught in the chaos of a bad day, everything seems to go wrong, from spilling coffee to a missed deadline to a tense call. The reactive mind stays on the dots. It judges each event as separate and negative, creating a story of a cursed day. This amplifies stress. But if, in the midst of it, you can create a pocket of silence, a threshold pause, 3 conscious breaths, you might step back. From that slightly detached, silent vantage point, you may see a pattern. Perhaps the bad day is the pattern of rushing. The spilled coffee happened because you were rushing. The missed deadline stemmed from not saying no earlier. The tense call was a result of frazzled energy. The pattern isn't bad luck, it's hurriedness or overcommitment. Seeing the pattern is empowering. It moves you from helpless victim of random events to an observer who can address the root cause. You can't control all the dots, but you can influence the pattern. This perception of wholeness also dissolves the illusion of separation between my problem and the world's problem. In silence, you might see that your personal anxiety about climate change, your feeling of political helplessness, and your strained relationship with a neighbor are not entirely separate. They may all be expressions of a deeper, shared pattern of disconnection, from nature, from community, from civil discourse. This doesn't solve the problems, but it reframes them. It shifts the response from fragmented, frantic action on 20 fronts to a more centered, meaningful action that addresses the root pattern of disconnection, perhaps by first cultivating connection within yourself, then in your immediate circle. Silence helps you find the leverage point in the pattern, not just exhaust yourself swatting at dots. A community organizer in Detroit working on urban blight told me about this shift. Initially, her team would react to every complaint. A vacant lot here, a boarded-up house there. It was endless, dispiriting whack-a-mole. During a grant-mandated retreat, they spent a day in silent reflection on their work, with no agenda. In that quiet, a shared insight emerged. They weren't fighting blight, they were trying to cultivate neighborhoodness. The problem wasn't the houses, it was the broken web of community. This changed everything. They stopped just cleaning lots and started hosting silent community potlucks in them. They paired elders with teenagers to share stories. They measured success not in houses demolished, but in connections made. The external work became an expression of an internal, silent understanding of wholeness. They had seen the pattern. Our deepest suffering often comes from resistance to impermanence. We want the pleasant to stay, the unpleasant to leave, and the neutral to become interesting. We fight the fundamental law of change. Silence, when practiced not as an escape but as a deep immersion in the present, becomes the ultimate teacher of impermanence. It doesn't teach it as a philosophical concept, but as a lived, felt experience. Sit in silence and watch your breath. You will see that no two breaths are the same. Each in-breath arises, peaks, and passes away. Each out-breath does the same. Sit in silence and watch your thoughts. They arise, have their moment, and vanish. Sit in silence and feel an emotion like sadness. If you don't feed it with stories, you will feel it as a wave of sensation that crests and then subsides. In the deep quiet, you become a witness to the endless, lawful flow of change. You see that you are not the content that is changing, you are the awareness within which the changing spectacle is appearing and disappearing. This realization is profoundly liberating. It's like watching the seasons turn from a warm, secure cabin. You can appreciate the blazing glory of autumn without desperately clinging to each falling leaf, because you know it is the nature of autumn to let go. You can endure the barren silence of winter without despair, because you know, in your bones, the truth of the coming spring. You become aligned with the seasonal wheel of existence, not at war with it. I learned this from a potter in a remote valley in Bhutan. He made simple, beautiful cups for the local monastery. He would fire them in a wood-burning kiln, a days-long process with unpredictable results. Sometimes a piece he loved would crack in the cooling. He would pick it up, examine the crack in silence, and place it on a special shelf. I asked if he was disappointed. He said, "The clay comes from the earth. The fire is a kind of death that gives it strength. The crack is its unique history. To throw it away would be to reject the truth of its journey. This crack teaches me about holding and releasing. The perfect cup teaches me about form. The broken one teaches me about the emptiness that holds the form. Both are my teachers. Silence is how I listen to them." He wasn't resigned, he was in a silent, participatory dialogue with impermanence itself. His acceptance was active, intelligent, and full of reverence. His practice of silence allowed him to see the crack not as a failure of his plan, but as an expression of the greater process of which he was only a part. We can bring this into our lives. When a plan falls apart, instead of the immediate internal noise of frustration, we can practice a moment of silent recognition. This is the crack in the kiln phase. It doesn't mean you don't feel disappointment. It means you don't add a layer of suffering by believing it shouldn't have happened. You meet the change with clear eyes. You ask the silent, deeper question: what does this cracked plan now make possible that a perfect one would not? When you are in physical pain, silent, mindful awareness of the sensations, the burning, the throbbing, the sharpness, can, paradoxically, reduce suffering. You are no longer at war with the pain, shouting, "Go away." You are simply acknowledging the ever-changing weather of sensation in the body. This changes your relationship to it from one of persecution to one of observation. The pain may not lessen, but your agony about the pain often does. By regularly sitting in the silent witness, you train for life's inevitable losses and changes. You build an inner cabin from which to watch the seasons of gain and loss, joy and sorrow, with a wise, compassionate heart. You learn the art of letting go, not as a forced sacrifice, but as a natural, graceful alignment with the flow of life itself. We have a tortured relationship with time. We fear its passage, we feel we never have enough of it, and we are constantly either regretting the past or worrying about the future. We live in mental time zones that don't exist, while missing the only one that does, the present moment. Silence is the secret doorway out of this psychological time travel and into the eternal now. Consider this: the past is a memory, which is a thought occurring now. The future is anticipation, which is another thought occurring now. The only tangible reality is this present moment, the feeling of your body, the sight before your eyes, the sound in your ears, all happening now. When you are lost in thought about past or future, you are absent from your own life. You are a ghost haunting a memory or a fantasy. Silence, the conscious resting of attention in the sensory present, is the practice of coming home. It is the ultimate time management tool because it reclaims the only time you ever actually have, this one. There is a beautiful concept in Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, called Hithadet. It translates roughly to self-seclusion or being alone with God. But in practice, as taught by figures like Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, it involves going out into nature, to a field or forest, and speaking out loud to the divine in your own words, from the heart, pouring out your troubles, your joys, your confusion. And then, you listen. You stand or sit in silence, and you listen for the response in the quiet of your own heart and the natural world. This practice is a deliberate rupture in chronological time. It is stepping out of the narrative of your life's problems and into the silent, eternal presence that underlies them, where answers of a different order can be perceived. A modern, secular version of this might be the worry window practice. Instead of letting anxious thoughts hijack you all day, you assign them a specific, limited time, say, 6 to 6:15 p.m. During that window, you can think about your worries, even write them down. But outside that window, when a worry arises, you silently acknowledge it, there's a 6 p.m. thought, and gently return your attention to the present moment task. This isn't suppression. It's a conscious structuring of your relationship with time. You are containing the noisy, future-oriented mind within a defined bracket, freeing up the vast majority of your day to live in the silent richness of the present. You stop renting mental space to time-traveling worries 24/7. Silence also alters your experience of time's passage. When the mind is noisy with planning and regretting, time feels either frenetic, when busy, or sluggish, when bored. In deep silence, time often seems to change texture. It can feel expansive, like there is more room within each moment. Or it can feel irrelevant, as the sense of a continuous, present, overtakes the tick-tock of the clock. An experiment conducted with seasoned deep-sea divers revealed something fascinating. When submerged in the silent, weightless world of the ocean depths, with only the sound of their own breath and bubbles, many experienced a profound shift in time perception. Minutes felt like hours. The constant mental chatter that normally segmented their day evaporated. They reported feeling out of time, immersed in a continuous, silent now. Their sense of self softened, merging with the aquatic environment. This blue mind state, as marine biologist Wallace J. Nichols calls it, is a testament to how environmental silence can forcibly pull us out of chronological time and into psychological presence. We can create mini versions of this. A daily 20-minute sit in silence is a dive into the depths of your own consciousness, where the surface waves of hourly appointments lose their urgency. A long walk without a podcast is an immersion in the sensory present. These practices are like adjusting a dial. They don't stop time, but they change your experience of it from a tyrant to a companion, from a river sweeping you away to a landscape you are walking through with full awareness, step by step. This relationship to time is critical for a life well lived. The person on their deathbed rarely says, "I wish I'd spent more time in meetings," or "I wish I'd worried more about 2025. They speak of moments, the silent holding of a hand, the laughter of a child, the feeling of sun on their face. These are all experiences of profound presence, of silence within an experience. By cultivating silence, you are not killing time, you are bringing the timeless quality of aware presence into time. You are filling your chronological life with depth, meaning, and the only thing you'll ultimately wish you had more of, fully lived moments. In a world that demands your attention, your energy, and your emotional labor 24/7, silence is not a luxury, it is a necessary fortress. It is the psychological and energetic boundary that allows you to say, "This is mine." This space, this attention, this peace, is non-negotiable. We think of boundaries as words we say to others, "No, I can't, that doesn't work for me." And those are important. But the most fundamental boundary is an internal one, built and maintained in silence. It is the boundary between the external world's chaos and your internal world's clarity. Without this silent inner fortress, your "no" will be shaky, because you won't have a quiet center to back it up. You'll be reacting from noise, not responding from peace. The practice of silence builds the walls of this fortress, brick by brick. Every conscious breath is a brick. Every moment of sensory anchoring is mortar. Every time you choose to feel an emotion without immediately broadcasting it on social media, you are reinforcing the gate. This fortress isn't built to keep life out, but to provide a sanctuary within from which you can engage with life wholeheartedly, without being demolished by it. I saw this in action with a social justice activist in Johannesburg. Her work involved daily exposure to trauma, injustice, and bureaucratic resistance. It was a recipe for burnout. When I met her, she had recently instituted what she called her sanctuary hour. From 5 to 6 a.m., before the world awoke and the emails began, her house was a silent fortress. No phone, no news, no conversation. She would make tea, sit by a window, and often do nothing but watch the light change. Sometimes she would write in a journal, not to process work, but to remember herself, her dreams, her small joys, her body's sensations. She said this hour was non-negotiable. It is the foundation of my ability to do the work without becoming bitter or broken. In that silence, I am not an activist. I am a human being. I touch the peace that I am fighting for others to have. If I skip it, by midday I am reactive, brittle, and identified solely with the struggle. The silence is where I remember what I'm fighting for, not just what I'm fighting against. It's my inner sanctuary, and I defend it as fiercely as any cause. Her silent hour was the ultimate boundary. It protected her humanity, which was the source of her compassion and endurance. It allowed her to serve from a full cup, not an empty, resentful one. We all need a version of this. It might be the first 10 minutes in your car after work, in silence, before you walk into your home. It might be a "Do Not Disturb" sign on your door for 30 minutes on a Sunday afternoon. It might be a rule of no digital devices in the bedroom. These silent boundaries are not antisocial. They are pro-sanity. They create a buffer zone where you can decompress the accumulated noise of the day, recalibrate your nervous system, and return to your own center. This silent fortress also gives you the clarity to set better external boundaries. When you are centered in your own quiet, you can feel, with precision, when a request feels draining versus life-giving. You can discern the difference between genuine obligation and people-pleasing. Your yes becomes more true, and your no becomes more clean, because they come from a place of inner knowing, not from guilt, fear, or social noise. In essence, the silent fortress is where you remember that you are not just a function, a worker, a parent, a friend. You are a being. And that being requires silent space to simply be, in order to then perform its functions with love and wisdom. Protecting that silence is the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself and, ultimately, for everyone you interact with. Part 20, The Uncarved Block, Potential and Beginning Again. In Taoist philosophy, there is a potent concept called Pu, often translated as the uncarved block. It represents the original, natural state of simplicity and potential before it is shaped, carved, and named by the intellect and society. It is the silence before the first note, the blank page before the first word, the raw clay before the potter's hand. This state of Pu is not ignorance, it is pure, fertile potential, brimming with all possibilities because it is not yet limited to any single one. Your mind, in its deepest silent essence, is this uncarved block. Your thoughts, beliefs, identities, and stories are the carvings. Some carvings are beautiful and useful. But the problem arises when we forget we are the block and believe we are only the carvings. We become rigid, fixed in our forms, unable to adapt or see new possibilities. We fear silence because it feels like a regression to the uncarved state, a loss of our hard-earned, intricate shape. But true freedom and creativity lie in regularly returning to the silent awareness of the uncarved block. It is the space where you are not your job title, not your past mistakes, not your political affiliation, not even your spiritual beliefs. You are the pure potential to be, perceive, and act freshly in this moment. From this silent ground, new carvings, new responses, new ideas, new ways of being, can emerge that are perfectly suited to the present, rather than stale repetitions of the past. I encountered a profound teaching on this in a traditional woodworking school in the mountains of Nagano, Japan. The master would give new apprentices a perfectly squared, smooth block of hinoki cypress. Their first task was not to make something from it. It was to sit with it. For a week, they were to carry the block with them, place it where they could see it, and simply observe it. They were forbidden to draw a design or imagine a final product. You must become friends with the possibility of the wood, the master said. If you start with, I will make a box, you murder all other possibilities. You impose your small idea on the wood's great silence. First, you must listen to what the wood might become. The silence holds all forms. Your job is to hear which one is asking to be born here, in this block. This practice was a direct training in Pu. The apprentice had to empty their mind of preconceptions and meet the raw material in silent, receptive presence. Only then could their skill become a collaboration with the material's inherent potential, rather than a domination of it. The resulting work carried a harmony and inevitability that a forced design never could. Our lives are that block of hinoki. We rush to carve ourselves into a specific shape, a career, a certain kind of partner, a particular lifestyle. We come with a blueprint and force the material to comply, often breaking it in the process. The practice of silence is the act of putting down the tools and sitting with the uncarved block of our being. Who am I before the story? What wants to emerge from this life now, not from the old plans? This isn't about abandoning responsibility or skill. It's about allowing your actions to flow from the silent, potent source of your being, rather than from the noisy, fearful, or habitual mind that merely repeats old carvings. This is why silence is the foundation of all true transformation. Lasting change doesn't come from adding a new carving on top of old ones, a new habit atop an unchanged mind. It comes from returning to the uncarved block, the silent awareness. And from that clear space, allowing a new, more integrated form to take shape naturally. A person trying to quit anger through willpower is just carving, not angry, over angry. The block is still defined by anger. But a person who sits in silent awareness of the anger's physical sensations, without identifying with the story of, I am an angry person, touches the uncarved block beneath the carving. From that space, the energy of anger can be understood and transformed, not just suppressed. A new way of being arises from the inside out. Every moment of sincere silent practice is a return to Pu. It is a soft erasure, not of your experience, but of your rigid identification with it. It is how you keep yourself humble, flexible, and open to the mystery of your own becoming. You are not a finished statue. You are a living block of potential, and silence is your way of listening to what you might become next. We have explored silence as a personal sanctuary, a clarifier, a forge. But its most generous application is as a mode of profound communication, deep listening. This is not listening to respond, to fix, or to agree. It is listening to understand, to receive, to witness. It is the act of offering your silent, spacious attention as a gift to another being, human, animal, or even the world itself. Most conversation is a subtle competition for airtime, a trading of monologues. We listen just enough to find an opening for our own story. Deep listening surrenders this agenda. It creates a silent, sacred container in which the other person can hear themselves think, feel the truth of their own words, and often discover their own answers. In this space, you are not a problem solver, you are a midwife to clarity. The Native American tradition of the talking stick embodies this. In a council, only the person holding the stick may speak. All others must listen in silence. This simple tool forces deep listening. It removes the impulse to interrupt, debate, or hijack the narrative. The speaker, held by the collective silence of the circle, often speaks more thoughtfully and from a deeper place. The listeners, freed from crafting a response, actually hear. Wisdom emerges from the center of the circle, from the dialogue between one voice and the communal silence holding it. You don't need a talking stick. You can practice this with a partner using a simple timer. For 5 minutes, one person speaks about something real, a challenge, a joy, a confusion. The other's only job is to listen silently, maintaining soft eye contact, without uttering a word, not even "ham." This is shockingly difficult and profoundly powerful. The speaker, unimpeded by feedback, often journeys to unexpected places. The listener learns the discipline of pure receptivity. Then you switch. This practice can deepen a connection more in 10 minutes than years of usual conversation. Deep listening extends beyond people. It is how a naturalist understands an ecosystem, not by imposing theories, but by sitting silently in it for hours, days, seasons, observing the interactions, the rhythms, the silent language of life. The forest speaks to those who are quiet enough to hear its nonverbal communication. A wildlife tracker in Botswana taught me this. We were following the faint signs of a leopard. He would stop for long periods, not moving. "You are listening with your whole body," he whispered. Not for a sound, but for a change in the quality of silence. The bird stops singing in a certain pattern. The insects pause. The wind carries a scent. The leopard is not just ahead, it is in the field of everything around us. To see it, you must first hear the silence it creates. His tracking was an act of deep listening to the landscape itself. His success depended on his ability to be a silent, receptive part of that landscape. We can listen to our own bodies this way. A pain or illness is often the body's desperate shout, trying to be heard over the noise of our busy lives. Lying in silent awareness, feeling into the discomfort without judgment, is a form of deep listening to the body. You may not get a verbal diagnosis, but you might receive an intuitive sense of what is needed: rest, a different food, less stress. The body's intelligence communicates in the language of sensation, and silence is the only frequency on which that language is broadcast. Ultimately, deep listening is an act of love. It says, "I value your existence so much that I will temporarily suspend my own to fully receive yours. I will be a clear mirror for your truth." In a world starved for true attention, offering someone your silent, focused presence is one of the most generous and connecting things you can ever do. It builds bridges across chasms of misunderstanding. It is where healing begins, not because you said the right thing, but because you had the courage to be silent and truly hear. We have journeyed through many chambers of the Silent Cathedral. We've seen it as a weaver's loom, an anchor point, a signal fire, an unwritten score, a polished mirror, a great space, a silent forge, a communal bridge, a root system, an empty vessel, an echo in a well, a seasonal wheel, a relationship with time, a fortress, an uncarved block, and a practice of deep listening. Each metaphor is a doorway into the same vast inner space. But knowledge of the map is not the same as walking the path. The final, most essential step is integration. The returning wave. This is the process by which the silence you touch in dedicated practice begins to seep into the very fabric of your daily life, not as a separate activity, but as the ground from which all activity arises. It's the wave of awareness returning from the deep ocean of silence to touch every shore of your existence. Integration doesn't mean you walk around in a perpetual trance, oblivious to the world. It means the qualities of the silent center. Clarity, peace, compassion, presence, begin to inform your actions, your speech, and your reactions. The wave returns, bringing the qualities of the deep to the surface. Think of it as learning a new language. At first, you study it in a classroom. That's your formal meditation or silent ritual. It feels separate, awkward. Then you start to recognize words on the street. Then you can order a coffee. Then, one day, you catch yourself thinking in that new language. It has become part of your mental fabric. Silence is that language. The classroom is your cushion. The street is your life. A simple sign of integration is what I call spontaneous pauses. These are not the planned threshold pauses, but moments where silence simply arises on its own. You're about to snap at a customer service agent, and instead, you find a half-second of pure, silent awareness of your own frustration and their humanity, and your tone changes. You're rushing to meet a deadline, and you suddenly stop, take a breath you didn't plan to take, and feel your feet on the floor before continuing with more focus. These are moments when the silent center announces itself without you consciously calling for it. The wave is returning. Another sign is quiet joy in the mundane. The garden of silent awareness begins to yield fruit in ordinary moments, a genuine, wordless appreciation for the steam rising from your morning cup, the weight of a child asleep in your arms, the intricate pattern of rain on a window. This isn't manufactured positivity. It's the natural fragrance of a mind that is often rested in presence. The clutter of commentary thins, and the sheer suchness of things shines through. Integration also shows up as reduced identification with drama. When old storylines of grievance or self-pity arise, you find you can't quite get into them as you used to. There's a new, silent observer in the room who finds the drama slightly transparent. You might still feel the emotion, but there's a space around it. You are less likely to be hijacked for days by a negative thought because you have a home in the silence to return to. The wave of silence dampens the chaotic splashing of ego. This doesn't make you passive. In fact, it can make your action more potent. Wu Wei in motion becomes more common. You find yourself doing the right thing at the right time with less internal struggle. An apology comes more easily when it's needed. A necessary no is spoken with calm firmness. A creative solution pops up during a walk, not a frantic brainstorm. Action flows from the silent intelligence of the situation, not from the noisy demands of your pride or fear. How do you cultivate this integration? Gentle persistence. You don't force it. You simply remain faithful to the practice of returning, to the breath, to the body, to the present moment, countless times a day. You treat your formal silent practice not as a performance to be graded, but as a daily tuning of your instrument. You are tuning the instrument to the frequency of presence, so that when you play the symphony of your day, it carries that harmony. Be patient. The wave returns in its own time. Some days it will feel like a distant ripple. Other days, it will wash over everything, cleansing and clarifying. Trust the process. The silence is working in you, often in ways you cannot perceive, rewiring neural pathways, softening hardened defenses, and deepening your capacity to hold all of life with grace. We end where we began, but hopefully you are now in a different relationship with the ideas. We spoke of the Silent Cathedral. Let me now confess, the cathedral is not a place you go. It is what you are. You are the weaver, the anchor, the signal fire, the mirror, the great space, the root system. The architecture of silence is the fundamental architecture of your own awareness. The stained glass windows are your senses, filtering the pure light of reality into the beautiful, temporary patterns of your experience. The altar is your heart, where the truth of your being is enshrined. The deep, resonant quiet you've been seeking is not out there. It is in here. It is the substance of your consciousness when it is not agitated by the winds of thought. This journey has been an exercise in remembrance. A remembering of a home you never left, but simply forgot you were living in. The noise of the world, the chaos of your thoughts, these are just weather patterns in the sky of your awareness. They are not you. You are the sky, vast, silent, and inherently peaceful, capable of holding any storm. So what now? You don't have to achieve silence. You have to allow it. You have to stop doing the things that obscure it. You have to cultivate the courage to sometimes be bored, to be uncomfortable, to be with what is, without immediately reaching for a distraction. You have to learn to sit in the silent, empty chapel of this moment and discover it is not empty at all, it is overflowing with the presence of life itself. The practices, the stories, the metaphors, they are all fingers pointing at the moon. Don't mistake the finger for the moon. The moon is your own silent, aware presence, shining right now. Our time together has been an attempt to direct your gaze. As you move forward from here, let your life become the continuation of this exploration. Let your challenges become your meditation hall. Let your relationships become your practice of deep listening. Let your daily rituals become your anchors. Let your moments of awe and beauty become your portals to the great space. You will forget. You will get lost in the factory noise. That's okay. Perfection is not the goal. Faithful return is. The moment you realize you've been lost in thought is the moment of waking up. That moment of awareness is the doorway. Step through it, again and again, with kindness for yourself. The Silent Cathedral has no opening hours. It is always open. The light is always on. You are always welcome home. Thank you for your precious time, and most of all, thank you for your courage to listen to these words, and to the profound silence that holds them. This has been a journey at Monk's Moon Temple. If what you found here resonates, If you feel that quiet pull to explore this landscape within further, I invite you to subscribe. Our community is a place to continue this conversation, to share insights, and to support each other in remembering the quiet truth of who we are. But remember, the deepest teacher is already with you. It speaks in the space between your thoughts, in the pause between your breaths, in the stillness at your very core. Listen. Welcome, always, to the Silent Cathedral. Welcome home.